At Rivershire Academy, competition was everything. Grades, rankings, scholarships, they defined your worth. That day, I had taken the top spot in the entire school, a place that used to belong to Lena Taylor. And because of that, my so-called childhood friend, Arthur Hale, decided to cut me off. Even worse, the school's notorious boss, Gabriel Kane, confronted me 7 times that week. Everyone was waiting to see when he'd finally punch me. I couldn't take it anymore. Gabriel, I said sharply, I hate people who crave attention. Just say it. What do you want from me? For a moment, everyone around froze. Then, under the stunned gaze of the entire hallway, the ruthless, 6'2" school tyrant burst into tears. I just wanted to ask, he sobbed, if you'd be my desk mate. The silence that followed could have drowned the entire corridor. A few days earlier, Arthur had cornered me after the midterm results. He was angry, no, furious, that Lena hadn't won first place. He said, I told you before the exams. Sophie, Lena needs to win this time. Her parents will punish her if she doesn't. You could have gone easy on her. I clenched the exam paper in my hand, forcing my voice to stay calm. I've already held back more times than I can count this term. I said, if she wants to be first, she should earn it herself. Arthur's eyes darkened with disappointment. You've really changed, Sophie. Have you lost all empathy? I laughed, short and bitter. Empathy? So now I'm supposed to fail on purpose just so your precious Lena can feel better about herself? He looked away, jaw tight. Sophie, just transferred to class 7. Lena deserves to stay in the honors class more than you. Class 7, the infamous class of troublemakers. The one teachers avoided and parents warned their kids about. I stared at him in disbelief. Before Lena came, Arthur and I had grown up together. He used to tell me I was the most important person in his life. Now he was throwing me away, for her. I won't transfer, I said firmly. I worked for months to earn my place in the honors class. I got here on my own. Arthur's tone turned cold. It's not up to you. You know my uncle's on the school board. A single word from me is enough to move you. And your mother? He paused deliberately. She works for my family. If I wanted her fired tomorrow, it'd take just one call. 10 years. That's how long my mother had cared for him like he was her own son. I never thought Arthur would go that far. Even for Lena. My throat tightened. Finally, I nodded. He reached out and patted my head, a mock gesture of comfort. When Lena gets her rank back, he said softly, I'll bring you back to the class. Until then, let's not talk too much. I don't want her to misunderstand. Then he turned and walked away. I looked down at the report card in my hand, my fingers trembling. I had no power, no status, but the one thing I did have was my hard-earned score. If this was a battle of will, I wouldn't lose. That afternoon, the transfer notice came. When I packed my books into a cardboard box, whispers filled the room. See? Sophie Barlow's really been moved to class 7. That class is wild. Someone got cornered in the restroom last month. She won't survive a week there. Arthur walked in just as I was leaving. The room went silent. Arthur, one of his friends whispered. Are you really sending Sophie to class 7? What if she gets hurt? Gabriel Kane's in that class. Arthur's voice was cold. It's the same school. She'll be fine. Maybe the environment will suit her better. He glanced at the heavy box in my arms. I ignored him and walked toward the door. Sophie, he called. He reached for the box. Let me help. I stepped back. Don't. He frowned. Stop being stubborn. When he tried to grab it again, a black pen slipped out and rolled across the floor. We both froze. It was the pen he'd given me on our first day of high school. He'd smiled and said, use it to get into the best university. I'd kept it ever since. Sophie, he murmured, bending to pick it up. Just then, Lena appeared at the doorway, smiling. Arthur, let's go. I want to grab some juice. He hesitated, eyes flicking from the pen to her. Then he straightened, walked over, and left with her. I picked up the pen and placed it neatly on his desk. There are plenty of pens, I whispered. I don't need old ones anymore. When I got home, my mother already knew. Arthur's mother had called to apologize and offered money as compensation. She said Arthur's just spoiled. Mum sighed. They want to help us open a small cafe. Think of it as gratitude for all these years. I shook my head. We'll take their help with the paperwork, not their money. Mum smiled faintly. You've grown up. That night, as I packed my bag for my first day in Class 7, I told myself one thing. I may have lost the honors class, but I won't lose myself. The rumors about Class 7 were greatly exaggerated. Yes, the students were loud, but only between periods. Once the bell rang, they all dropped their heads to the desk and slept as if life had drained out of them. Even the teachers stopped trying to keep order, oddly enough. Lessons went smoother that way. During evening study sessions, the room grew quiet, each student lost in their own world. I'd expected chaos, but what I found instead was a strange kind of peace. My new deskmate, Trent Collins, was quiet and polite. His usual partner was out sick, so the homeroom teacher paired me with him temporarily. Everything seemed almost normal. Until Gabriel Kane, the infamous school boss, started blocking my way every other day. At first, I ignored him. He'd appear at the classroom door, tall and broad-shouldered, flanked by a few friends, and just stand there, staring at me. No words, no threats, just silence and that unreadable face. By the 5th time, even my classmates began whispering. Why does Gabe keep stopping Sophie? He's done it 5 times already. Maybe she stepped on his shoes or something. No way, maybe he likes her? Or he's about to pick a fight. Look at his face, like she owes him a fortune. By the 7th time, I'd had enough. Gabriel, I snapped, standing my ground. I can't stand people who do things just to get attention. What do you actually want? The words left my mouth sharper than intended. He froze. His dark eyes glistened suddenly. And then, to everyone's disbelief, he started crying. Not a single tear, not a quiet sniff. He cried, properly cried, right there in the hallway. I just wanted to ask. He choked out between sobs. If you'd be my desk partner. The hallway fell into stunned silence. Even Trent nearly dropped his notebook. I dragged Gabriel out to the courtyard behind the gym before the whole school could witness my humiliation. What was that? I hissed. You can't just start crying in front of everyone. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve, still sniffling. You yelled at me, he mumbled, and you forgot me. What? I blinked. He looked up, his eyes watery but sincere. When we were kids, you used to pinch my cheeks and say I looked like a marshmallow. I frowned. A distant memory flickered, a small boy with soft brown hair, round cheeks, and a gentle smile. I remembered accidentally hurting him once. And my mother taking me to apologize before we moved away. Gabriel's voice softened. I spent years trying to find you, Sophie. I changed schools just to see you again. And when I finally did, you told me to get lost. I stared at him, speechless. He must have been at that party. The one where Arthur and I were drinking by the roadside after an exam. I'd been tired, half drunk, and probably said something harsh. He wasn't lying. I waited outside your class that day. He continued. You walked right past me with Arthur. You didn't even look at me. Tears welled up again. I just wanted to be your friend again. I exhaled slowly, rubbing my temples. So, you've been blocking my way for a week just to ask that? He nodded earnestly, hope flickering in his eyes. So, can I? I sighed. Fine, we can be desk partners. And just like that, the school tyrant, the same guy everyone feared, grinned like a child who'd just been handed a new puppy. From that day, things in Class 7 became complicated. Everywhere I went, People stared. Even when we were just sitting in class, I could feel eyes on us. During lunch breaks, whispers filled the room. She's sitting with Gabriel Kane. He's never let anyone share his desk before. Is he serious about her? Trent asked me quietly one afternoon. Sophie, aren't you afraid he'll, snap someday? I shook my head. He's harmless. But inside, I wasn't sure what to think. Because Gabriel Kane, tall, handsome, perpetually smelling like candy and mint shampoo, had a strange way of making my world both calmer and louder at the same time. On Friday, I decided to move into the school dorms to focus on study. When Gabriel heard, he insisted on helping me move. As we carried boxes, I caught a faint scent of vanilla. Did you just shower? I asked. He shook his head seriously. No, I just smell nice. I blinked. Your hair looks smoother than earlier. Must be the wind, he said deadpan. I almost laughed. Then I noticed he was wearing a crisp, brand new shirt. You're helping me move, I said. Why wear new clothes? You'll get sweaty. He turned away, ears turning pink. Well, if I sweat, I'll just shower again. I gave up. The boy was hopeless, clean freak, emotional mess, and somehow still endearing. That weekend, he texted me at 7 a.m. Gabriel, want to study together? Me. You're already guaranteed admission. Why are you studying? Gabriel. To help you. Me. I can handle it. Gabriel. You've eaten yet? Me. Not yet. Gabriel. Then don't. I'm bringing breakfast. 10 minutes later, he sent a photo. Fried dumplings, sticky rice rolls, and a cup of warm soy milk. All my favorites. Gabriel. Had to queue for ages. Worth it though. I stared at the photo, smiling despite myself. Me. Fine, I'll eat. He became my shadow, always nearby, always patient. He'd correct my homework, explain the tricky parts, and sometimes just sit quietly beside me. As if that alone made his day complete. For someone once labeled the troublemaker of Rivershire, Gabriel Kane was surprisingly gentle. And little by little, I began to forget why I ever found him annoying in the first place. Exams were only a month away. Even the students who used to nap through lessons started flipping open their books like their lives depended on it. The air in Class 7 turned heavy with quiet determination. Every page turned sounded like a countdown. Gabriel was always next to me, calm, focused, absurdly good at every subject. Sometimes I wondered if the rumors about him being a problem student were ever true. When I got stuck on a difficult question, he'd glance over, read the problem once, and say, "You made one tiny mistake here," and circle it neatly. His handwriting looked like it belonged in a textbook. One afternoon, as we walked back to the dorms, I asked, "Your scores are perfect. Why weren't you in the honors class from the start?" He hesitated, eyes lowering. "Because you didn't want to see me." I stopped mid-step. "I said that?" "You did," he said softly. "The night you were drinking with Arthur." Ah, that night again. I didn't even remember what I said, only the bitter taste of disappointment. I sighed. "Then I owe you an apology, Gabriel." He smiled faintly. "If you mean it, you can pay me back with 2 white rabbit candies." I blinked. "That's all?" He nodded, looking dead serious. "I'm easy to please." And somehow, that was true. The last mock exam arrived. Everyone was tense. You could almost hear hearts beating under the fluorescent lights. That night, as I revised formulas for the 100th time, a voice message came through. It was Arthur. "Sophie," he said, his tone light, almost casual. "Tomorrow, could you lower your score a little? Just this once. Let Lena take first place. I'll make sure they move you back to the honors class." For a second, I thought he was joking. But then I realized, he wasn't. I laughed quietly. "Arthur, you really don't get it, do you? Did he think ranks were charity?" That I'd studied for years just to throw it all away for someone else's ego? I didn't reply. A few minutes later, another message came. His voice had changed, colder. Frustrated. Stop being difficult, Sophie. You're making things harder for everyone. Lean is under a lot of pressure. Can't you just understand? I'm begging you, okay? Just this once. I deleted the message. Then I blocked his number. Silence. For the first time in years, there was finally silence between us. A week later, the results came out. I was still ranked number 1, again. Arthur didn't speak to me, but I saw him standing at the school gate one evening. His hands clenched, his expression unreadable. Gabriel came to pick me up that day. He waved from a distance, grinning as always. Ready for dinner? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. Arthur's eyes followed us as we walked away. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of something, guilt. Maybe. But it faded as quickly as it came. Because I realized something simple. Something I should have known long ago. I didn't owe him anything. After exams, my mother's cafe finally opened, a small, warm corner shop on Maple Street. Gabriel helped set up the furniture and hung the sign himself. He moved like someone who'd done manual labor all his life, fast. Precise. Efficient. My mother adored him instantly. Such a good boy, she said, beaming. You should marry someone like him. Sophie. I nearly choked on my tea. Mom. Gabriel only smiled, dimples showing. I'll take that as approval. When university entrance results came out, I'd been accepted into Belltown University, one of the top in London. The same as Gabriel. The night before we left for orientation, he asked me to meet him by the river. The air was cool, the city lights rippled on the water. He turned to me, his voice lower than usual. Sophie, he said. Have you made up your mind yet? I looked at him, puzzled. About what? About us. I hesitated. We come from different worlds. Gabriel. Your family's, well, not like mine. He took a step closer. I don't care about that. I don't want a family alliance. Or a perfect match. I just want you. His eyes caught the city light, clear, sincere, and completely unguarded. My heart stuttered. And before I could say anything, he leaned in and kissed me, gently, like a promise. That night, as we walked back together, the world felt new. As if all those years of pain, humiliation, and loss had led to this one quiet moment. Maybe that's what growing up really is. Learning that love isn't about who needs you the most, but who chooses you, freely, every single day. University life felt like another universe. No uniforms, no curfews. Just 1,000 choices waiting to be made, and just as many chances to get lost. Belltown University sat on a hill overlooking the river. Its old stone buildings covered in ivy. The kind of place that made you believe in second chances. Gabriel and I moved into neighboring dorms. He carried half my luggage before I could even protest. New rule, he said, grinning. You let me help, or I'll sulk. I rolled my eyes, but secretly I was grateful. The first months passed quickly. We joined study groups, attended lectures, explored cafes hidden down cobblestone streets. For once, life wasn't about survival, it was about living. Every Sunday, we called my mom at the cafe. She always asked about Gabriel first. That alone said enough. But outside our little world, other stories were unfolding. Arthur Hale had dropped out halfway through his foundation course. Rumor had it he spent most nights in bars. Nursing guilt he'd never admit. His parents, tired of his self-destruction, had another child. A fresh start, they called it. Their social media feeds filled with baby photos and captions about renewed hope. And Lena Taylor? She'd failed her university exams and ended up in a second-tier college in the same city as Arthur. People said she still chased him, that she couldn't accept losing both him and the spotlight. Once, a friend showed me a video from a bar. Lena clinging to Arthur's arm. Crying. Arthur, please stop running from me. Sophie's gone. She never cared about you like I do. Arthur looked half drunk, his voice slurred but angry. Get off me, Lena, I chose this. The video cut there. But 2 nights later, news spread of a crash on the northbound motorway. Heavy rain, a car against a guardrail. 2 passengers in critical condition. Neither ever woke up again. When I heard, I didn't cry. I just stood there for a long time, watching raindrops slide down the cafe window. Maybe some endings aren't tragic. They're just overdue. Time kept moving. Gabriel and I graduated top of our class. But the real success wasn't the degree. It was learning how to live without fear. He proposed on the day we collected our diplomas. In front of the university clock tower. The same place where we'd once met to study under the rain. He knelt, holding a small silver ring. His voice barely steady. Sophie Barlow, he said. You've been my home long before I had the courage to say it. Will you marry me? I laughed through my tears. You don't even need to ask. Our wedding a year later was chaos. Friends, family, professors, half the cafe staff. We were exhausted, tipsy, and ridiculously happy. After the last guest left, I collapsed onto the bed. Half in my dress, hair full of flowers. Gabriel, wrapped in a hotel robe, joined me, still smelling faintly of champagne. He pulled me close, murmuring into my hair. Mrs. Kane, I'm never getting tired of saying that. I smiled sleepily. You'd better not. He laughed, then whispered. Tomorrow, we're disappearing. Just you, me, no phones, no noise. Only quiet mornings and the sound of the sea. That night, as the moonlight spilled across the sheets, I realized something I wish I could have told my younger self. That love isn't a reward for being perfect. It's what finds you when you finally stop chasing what hurts. People always say memory fades with time. But that's not true. Some memories don't fade, they wait. Mine waited for her. I remember the first time I saw Sophie. We were both kids, playing in the garden behind the manor house where her mother worked. I was sitting under the apple tree, pretending to read, when a tiny voice piped up beside me. What are those squiggly lines? She asked, pointing at the book. They look like worms. Before I could answer, she plopped down next to me. All wild curls and curiosity. Them worms must be magic, she said. 'Cause they make your eyes shine when you read. I had no idea what to say to that. Then she grinned, leaned in, and kissed my cheek. Out of nowhere. I froze, completely, utterly frozen. She laughed, bright as sunlight. Your face is soft, she announced. Softer than candy floss. And before running off, she shouted over her shoulder. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you. I remember touching my cheek afterward, wondering why it felt like the world had turned upside down. A few months later, she moved away. Her mother quit, and no one told me where they went. I was furious. I smashed my toys, tore my notebooks, screamed until my throat burned. The adults called it a tantrum. But it wasn't. It was grief. When you're little, no one tells you what heartbreak is. But you know it when it happens. Years passed. I grew taller, sharper, quieter. People called me the troublemaker, the boss, the boy you don't mess with. I let them. It was easier than explaining what I was actually waiting for. Then one day, I saw her again. Older, stronger, sitting on the curb outside Rivershire. Laughing at something Arthur Hale said. The world tilted the same way it had back then. And when I finally worked up the courage to speak, she told me to get lost. I thought that was the end of it. But it wasn't. I couldn't stop looking for her. In classrooms, hallways, dreams. Everywhere. Until one day, I stopped looking. Because she was right there beside me again. When Sophie walked into class 7 with that box in her arms. I nearly forgot how to breathe. I'd promised myself I'd play it cool, but 7 times later, I was crying in front of the entire school asking her to be my desk partner. Yeah, real smooth, Gabriel. But she said yes. And from that moment, my life started to make sense again. I used to think love was loud. Something you fought for, something dramatic. But with her, it was quiet. It was her voice reading notes beside me. Her laughter at breakfast. Her hand brushing mine when she thought I wouldn't notice. It was the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't looking. And now, every morning, I wake up next to her. The same girl who once kissed my cheek and called me soft. She still says my face hasn't changed. Still claims she found me first. And honestly, she's right. Sometimes at night, when she's asleep, I whisper the promise she made all those years ago. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you. She did. And that, I think, is what forever feels like.